Hey guys, this is Kamaluddin from Creators Lab. Today I'm giving a brief descriptions about some of the basic elements which are known as active and passive elements. So let's start from this element called as resistor. This resistor which opposes the flow of current and is very useful for in many circuits, and it can be categorized into so many ways which are very useful to oppose the flow of current. Actually, this is the one thing which supplies the constant current to an required load, and this is my second is capacitor, which stores the charges and discharges it at certain time period. These are my transistors, which are very useful in many applications, which act as a switches in particular solution, and it act as amplifier at certain conditions. This is my switches of different types: the sliding switch, pushing switch, and this is also a pushing switch of 4 terminals. This of switching off 2 terminals, and the sliding switch of 3 terminals, and this of 6 terminals. This is my capacitor. See here, if you want to change the one value from another value of this capacitor, what we need to do, we are replacing this capacitor, right? So instead of this, we are using a variable capacitor which can vary from according to the rated given onto that. These are my diodes. These are the high power diodes, and these are the low power diodes. The small diodes, which are basically used to as a bridge circuits, and the bigger diode which also used as a bridge circuit, but where there is a more power, there we are using this diodes. And this also a switch which are rarely used in development boards, in computers, laptops, something. In some of the major applications we are using this sliding switch. This is my soldering machine, soldering gun, which solders a particular connection between the two elements or terminals. This is a lead which is very used to stick this two terminals using this soldering machine. And this is the paste which is very useful in this soldering method. Why? Because we are going to solder different elements between any different elements. So what we are doing is that just we are applying this paste to connect that two different elements. This is my LEDs, different types of LEDs. This is a high power LED, 5-watt LED, and this is a 4mm LED, 5mm LED, and this is a 10mm LED, and this is a powerful LED which gives 3 watts of power. 3 watts of power. So this LED is rarely used in our cell phones, like Grand, some Samsung Grand, and most of the cell phones we are using this type of LEDs, which are called as desktop of LED. As you know, the from light we are getting electricity. So this element called as LDR, which is very useful to observe the light and use the potential and create the potential between the two terminals. And these are my IR transmitter and receivers. So it passes the light, emits light, and it receives the lights, and which gives serial communication between these two transmitter and a receiver. So it has a one backdrop, which if one obstacle in between these two transmitter receiver has come, then there is no supply of data from this transmitter to receiver. To avoid this type of backdraw and disadvantages from this IR transmitter and receiver, we are going for a high qualified transmitter and receiver that called as a RF transmitter receiver. So RF gives the names of radio frequency, which chooses a particular band of frequency, which called it as a radio frequency. So this is my transmitter, and this is my receiver, and this is my one type of a transistor of high power. This is my IC in the sense integrated circuit. So instead of using all the elements, this total elements are fabricated into one chip called it as IC, integrated circuit. This is my regulator, and transistor also, it acts as a transistor. And this is my ICs of 8 pin dip, 14 pin dip, and 18 pin dip. And these are my bases of for this IC. So actually the basis for this ICs we are using to avoid, suppose we have designed a big circuit, instead one IC has damaged, then what we are doing is that we are just replacing it instead of soldering onto this directly onto the board. This is my glue gun, which emits a glue by connecting this wire to the power supply. So this is very useful to disable, to disvisible of some of the elements and some of the connections. This paste can be throwable on it. And this is called as a piezoelectric buzz, which is used in the guitar. And this is a cube, which act as also a transformer. This is my variable resistor. It's called as a preset, and it's called as a potentiometer. Instead of this resistors, we are using this potentiometers and presets to vary the resistance between the two values. And moreover, this is a capacitor of other kind, called it as a ceramic capacitor. And this capacitors are electrolytic capacitor. And this is my 7-segment display instead of 7-segment display, which is very useful to count from the 0 to 9, and as well as A, B, C, D. Instead we are using this. So casually, to represent from 0 to 16, which gives primary data in most of the computers, we are using this type of LEDs, 7-segment display made up of LEDs. And this is my dip of phone connector, which is used to transmit the data from to true wide. And this is my relay, which is very useful to interface between a small circuit, in the sense of small signals, to interface with a large potentiometer, large potential of 230 volts, which are using in the home appliances. This is my wire. Two wires are there here. This is one wire, call it as a multi-core wire, and a single core wire, which are this single core wire very used in the breadboards to verify the connection between the circuits. And the multi-core wire we are using to solder between the two connections. And this is called a buzzer. Instead of this speaker, this buzzer is different from the speaker. Actually the similarities are same, but from this buzzer we are getting only the single tone at particular frequency. Instead we are not going for speaker. This is my multi-core wire. This is my single core wire, as you have seen just before. This is my PCB and coated PCB. And this is IC, called it for 40 pins. It's called as microcontroller. It's a breadboard. Actually, see here, if you want to design any circuit, the breadboard is a basic thing which is which we want to know. See here, this total breadboard are divided into 3 sections. This is the upper section, bottom section, and intermediate section. This top and bottom we can assign as a positive supply and the negative supply between them. This IC is shown here, is connected with the different pins. See here, let us discuss about the connections of this breadboard. This 5, what you are seeing, the 5 holes are connected in a series. It does not attach it with a corresponding parallel line. So it look like as a parallel lines which are connected together. And this is a board serial board. So it is connected from here, from one point to the fifth point of this LED. One point to the fifth point of this breadboard. So it is connected in the series, and the upper part and the downer part, this is a lower part and upper part. See, if you're connecting this totally, you can assign anything else. Just my brief assumption is that I'm assigning this upper layer as a positive supply and the lower layer as a negative supply. So instead you can connect this breadboard. So have you seen these knobs? If you have these knobs, you can connect one more breadboard if you have the major project with you. Thank you guys for giving me best opportunity to explain about this all basic elements. Thank you very much.